My name is Ariana, and today you are going to be having coffee and food for thought with me. There's an old saying that says that blood is thicker than water. I'm not quite sure where this saying originated from, but the meaning of this statement is that family should always come first. Family should come before your friends, your job, your finances. It can even go as far as saying that family should come before morality, ethics, and justice. The list can really go on, and putting family first can be a very well intentioned in the beginning until you're faced with a hard decision that can change your viewpoint on this statement. Someone who can relate to this is a young boy from Mississippi named Colonel Sartorius Snopes, also known as Sardy Snopes. He's a boy from the story Barn Burning by William Faulkner. The story setting was in Yoknapatawpha County of Mississippi, which is actually a made-up imaginary county that was made up by the author. The time frame of this story takes place in the 1930s, and the story begins at a store that was also a courtroom, most likely the county's courthouse, and due to the circumstance of the story, I'm going to call it the county's courthouse. Sardy Snopes is in the store/courthouse. He talks about smelling cheese, seeing tins, and all he could see were shelves and canned food. Meanwhile, he could still hear the proceedings as he was listening in on his father, Abner Snopes' case against a man named Mr. Harris. Sardy's father, Abner, is currently being accused by a man named Mr. Harris for burning down his barn due to Mr. Harris and Abner having an incident that was related to a hog invading Mr. Harris's crops. As Sardy is listening, he thinks to himself that Mr. Harris is his father's enemy. Therefore, Mr. Harris is also his own enemy. The judge, named Justice, asks Mr. Harris for proof, but Mr. Harris is unable to come up with concrete proof. Mr. Harris tells the judge to question Sardy. He states, "Ask the boy, he knows." As Sardy was going up to be questioned when Sardy responds, the judge states, and I quote, "Anybody named Colonel Sartorius can't help but tell the truth." The judge asks Mr. Harris if he wants him to question the boy, and Mr. Harris at that point changes his mind and declines the offer. All the while, Sardy is still thinking to himself, enemy, enemy. Due to not having evidence, Justice closes the case against Abner, and he tells Abner that he should leave the country. As the family walks out, someone starts yelling, "Barn burner!" And Sardy responds to this person by charging at them and attempting to fight them to defend his father. The story continues with Abner leading his family to a new place where they will be living. As they camp out for the night, Sardy looks at the campfire his father made. The narrator writes, "Such fires were his father's habit and custom always," implying that Abner enjoyed starting fires. Abner thinks to himself that Sardy was going to tell the truth to Justice in the courts. He states, "You were fixed to tell them, you would have told them." Abner then hits Sardy and says that he needs to stick to his own blood. The next day, the family arrives at Mayor Despon's farm, where they will be living and working. Despon's butler instructs Abner to wipe his feet off before coming into the house, but Abner ignores him. Abner then gets horse droppings on top of Despon's fancy rug. Despon instructs Abner to clean the rug, and when Abner brings back the cleaned rug to Despon, Despon was not satisfied with the cleaning that Abner had did, and he tells Abner that he's going to need to give him 20 bushels of corn from his crop in order to pay for the damages. Abner takes the case to Justice, and Justice hears him out and cuts down the cost of damages to 10 bushels of corn instead of 20. Later that night, Abner sees Sardi and instructs him to go get the oil. Sardi was hesitant, and when his father noticed his hesitation, he told Sardi's mom and aunt that they needed to restrain Sardi. Sardi knew his dad was going to burn down yet another barn. Sardi escapes his mom and his aunt, and he runs off to Despond and yells the word barn. After telling the owner about the barn, Sardi runs away from the barn and his family. Then he hears 2 gunshots, and he cries out, "Father, Father." But he continues to run in the opposite direction. Abner Snopes used to be in the military. We know this based on the statement the narrator states while Snopes and his family are at the campfire. There's a quote that the narrator said, "Why should not a man who had only seen the waste and extravagance of war, but who had blood and inherent voracious prodigality with material not his own, have burned down everything in sight?" Abner seeing destruction from war made him want to destroy property. And not just any property, he wanted to destroy property that he himself didn't even own. We learn that Abner does not care for the law nor other people's materials based on his actions. He was burning down barns. He didn't care about Despond's rug. He was careless. We also see that when Abner gets upset, he can be destructive, such as his confrontation with Mr. Harris over a hog causing him to burn down Mr. Harris's barn, and the confrontation of him and Despond over a fancy rug causing him to attempt to burn down Despond's barn. Abner also believes that it's important for family to come first, and we see that when Abner tells Sardi to stick to his own blood. Sardi is a loyal character at first. He is so protective of his father. He holds the values of blood being thicker than water, that family comes first no matter what. We see this when Sardi states that Mr. Harris is his own enemy only based on the fact that he's his father's enemy. Sardi even calls Justice his enemy. We also see his loyalty to his father when he tries to fight a stranger to defend his father when the stranger yelled, "Barn burner." Sardi was so loyal he was even willing to lie to the court to protect his father, despite the fact that he knew what his father had really done and that his father wasn't innocent in the crimes he was accused of. Sardi had a revelation when he was looking at the campfire his father made. That campfire was a symbol of all the fires his father had started. As he was looking at that campfire, he realized that his father burns things that aren't his own. Sardi has seen his father burn down dozens of barns, and that his father has no regard for other people's items. And I believe at this point, Sardi realizes the error in his father's ways. We see that when he states he hopes that his father is finally done with this behavior. Sardi compares Despond's farm to looking like a courthouse when they first arrive. And the comparison of Despond's farm to a courthouse shows that Despond's farm is a symbol of law. Sardi thinks that maybe this time his father won't burn down this particular farm. When his father starts again, Sardi fights back. Sardi completely turns on his own family to do what is morally right. He tells Despond what his father has done, knowing the consequence would be separation from his family. Sardi hears the gunshots of his brother and his father's death, but he continues to run away. And those gunshots is another symbol of the consequences of being separated from your family because of Sardi choosing to do the right thing. The theme of the story shows that blood is not always thicker than water, and family should not always come first, especially when conflicting with morality. Throughout the story, we see Sardi's loyalty to his father, even when he knows that his father is acting in a destructive way and committing crime. Until finally Sardi does what is right and tells Despawn about the bard. Loyalty to family should never triumph loyalty to law. And we see that in this story. We see a young boy who's loyal to family no matter what, and at a young age having to realize that loyalty to family shouldn't always triumph loyalty to law. Again, my name is Ariana, and you just had coffee and food for thought with me. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a wonderful day.